This is an AT&T Merlin phone system from the early 1980s. And if we take off its very nice front cover here, we can see I've got a model 410 on the bench today, which means you could have 4 outside telco lines to your telecom provider, so outside phone numbers for someone dialing into your business, and then you could have a total of 10 internal phones. The internal phones, or voice terminals as AT&T called them, are pretty iconic if you are of a certain age. At least here in the US, these were absolutely everywhere. But perhaps even more iconic are the ringtones. So by way of example, I've got my own little Telecom setup down here that we'll go over in much greater detail. But I'm going to call this phone. And a lot of us probably recognize that. But the focus of today's video is going to be about the expansion modules. You may have noticed these 3 slots labeled Cartridge Type 1, 2, and 3. I've just got the blanking plates in there. They're all the same physical size, but you can't interchange the modules. So only Cartridge Type 1 can go in here. Only Cartridge Type 3 can go in here, for example. And I've been scrounging up a bunch of these cartridges. Here we have 2 Cartridge Type 1s. These were feature packages. This is a feature package 1. This is a feature package 2. For example, I think the ability to receive an incoming call on one voice terminal, like this one, and then transfer it to another voice terminal internally, so you'd have like an attendant directing the calls. I think feature package 1 gives you that and a bunch of other stuff. Feature package 2 gives you everything that feature package 1 has, but some other stuff. So remember that pretty iconic ringtone we were looking at earlier? I believe there's more than one ringtone. There's something like 8 of them. And this guy should let us do that. We're going to try that. And then probably the main focus of this video, but I'm a little nervous, is Cartridge Type 2 Music on Hold. This one lets you hook up an audio source of your choice, and when you put someone on hold, they're going to hear that audio. In my experience, it's exceedingly rare to find these music on hold cartridges, and I'm a little nervous about this one. It's got something rattling around in there. Hopefully that's not a problem. Last but not least, we've got Cartridge Type 3 Extra Alert and 2 Power Failure lines. Let me slot it in and show you what it looks like. I may have just made a critical error. We'll find out. I didn't realize this was on. You are not supposed to put these in or pull them out when this thing's on. So hopefully that didn't cause any problems, but it's in there now. So the deal with this one is if the power goes out, the analog POTS line, of course, is still going to be working. Those don't generally require the power to be working. And you can plug in 2 additional phones. Line A maps to A over here, line B maps to B over here. So if someone calls your business, you can plug in a regular old phone here, and if your power's out, you'll still get calls. So if the power's out, these guys, these voice terminals, they're not going to work. But you know, something like this, you could still have plugged into at least 2 of your phone lines. And it's the 80s, you know, you're probably able to still do business with the power off, believe it or not. Or, you know, you're running something mission critical and it's absolutely critical that you're able to communicate with the outside world. That's what the power fail lines are. And then we've got the extra alert jack. It's the same, you know, phone looking jack, but you can plug in like a really loud siren or horn or a light, and you would put that in an area that's really loud. Maybe you're like an auto shop or something, and you want to know if the phone is ringing, and this thing will blare that speaker or horn. I don't know if I'm set up to mess with this today, but maybe. So we're going to dive into all these cartridges, starting with the feature package 1, see if it actually adds call transfer, like I think it does. We'll try out some ringtone stuff. Hopefully this music on hold thing works. Hopefully I didn't destroy my Model 410 by hot swapping Cartridge Type 3 when I definitely wasn't supposed to do that. Let's get into it. I have good news, everyone. The Merlin still works. Got dial tone. So far so good. As you can see, I don't have any expansion cartridges installed. And the first thing we're going to do is we'll take an incoming call, we'll pick it up with this guy, and we'll attempt to transfer it to this one. And I'm guessing it shouldn't work. It's kind of weird. If you look at the documentation for these things, at least the PDFs I can find, They already assume you have a feature package cartridge. And so I'm just going off the Wikipedia page, which of course doesn't have sources for this particular section of the page, but it does add call transfer. First though, let's make sure these things can talk. So the physical port labeled 10 through 19 that you plug a phone into, a voice terminal, determines its internal extension number. So the one on the left I've got here is 10, and this one right here is 11. So what we should be able to do is pick up this one. I've got a dial tone. This is the outside line. We'll get into all that later. I can press this one, which of course isn't labeled, for an internal call, and I can dial 11. We hear that one beep, and now these guys are talking. This Cisco IP phone is on my internal telephone network. I will not spare you the details of that. Don't worry, we'll dive into it. Long story short, I can pick this guy up and dial a number, and it dials into this over the POTS line. There's a lot of other infrastructure on the side of this cable, which we'll go into later. So for example, this line is number 200 in my system. These both ring. No surprise there. You can see I've got a little cheat sheet for myself here. This is number 102 on my internal telephone system here. So I can pick up one of the Merlins. Got a dial tone. I can dial 102, and he rings. So the way a transfer works is you'd probably have like a secretary or front office person with a big ass phone like this one. This is a Biz 34D. I think this is the biggest one physically and capability wise. I can hook up to what's called my Merlin Classic system over here, the first one that came out in the early 80s. I'm going to be able to accept an incoming call. I'll be able to pick it up. I'll press transfer, and then I'm going to give it to 11. 11 being this internal phone. So I'm going to pick this up, call the Merlin, pick up here, transfer it to here, and what I'm expecting is that it won't work because I don't have at least feature package 1. So let's try it. We're going to dial 200, pick it up. These two have a call now. I'm going to press transfer 11, and that definitely didn't work. It just hung up the call. What's supposed to happen is this guy gets a beep saying, hey, you've got a call you can pick up now. This time we will be turning the control unit off before we put a cartridge in. And I'm going to throw in feature package 1. I won't lie to you, I've transferred a call before, but I was using feature package 2 like 2 hours ago. Theoretically, feature package 1 should get us transfer capabilities. Check out how fast this all comes to life. Flip the switch. Instantly, I have dial tone. No stupid operating system in there. Kind of hard to film, but I'm going to call the Merlins again. 200. They're ringing. I'm going to pick up. I'm going to say transfer. I think that's different behavior than before. 11. I can hang up. It's still trying to transfer it here. Hear the beep. And now, yep, I have a call between these two. So for sure, feature package 1 gives you transfer capabilities, among other things. I think like 5-call voice conferencing and stuff like that. Turned the Merlin off and pulled out the feature package 1 Cartridge Type I we were just using, and it explicitly notes for use with models 206 and 410. So we're using a 410 today. I also have a 206. It's just 2 outside lines and 6 internal lines. And I gotta say, I really like how these things look. Like, you know, someone designed that, made in the USA. We're gonna have a good look around these things. It's pretty historically significant if you care about the phone system and AT&T and everything. And then we're going to slot in feature package 2, and we'll still be able to do call transfers and stuff. I know that works. I've tried that with this one, and we should be able to get some different ringtones going. And I will say, this one is, I don't know, 30% heavier than this one. They are, of course, physically the same form factor. Got some really interesting stuff on there. This one's got the AT&T sticker on it. I don't know what that means necessarily. And then all of the cartridges say AT&T Western Electric Small Communications System. No user serviceable parts inside. Contact your authorized agent for service and repair. Hey, I don't think so. Wish I had an authorized service agent for this one. we're deep diving. We got feature package 1 on the left. It's got this slightly, this is like, well, you can see I can like leave a mark with my fingernail there. Really rough, almost like light grit sandpaper. That's kind of weird on just that one piece of plastic. It's like someone has actually, interesting, it's like a piece of tape that has some grit on the other side. It's almost like this one didn't fit properly without that, and that helps it slide in. That's interesting. This might be like a really early production run model. That's weird. Feature package 2 over here does not have that little gritty piece, but it does have some, what I'm guessing are like quality control markings, like as it moves through the stages of production. That's just a complete guess on my part. Some human has literally wrote 236 in section B. We've got some numbers, maybe a signature, then an X for PC. Kind of interesting to look at these things. And then on the edge connector, they all have this AT&T printed logo with the old school AT&T. What is that, a globe? I never really thought about it. Anyway, that's one of my favorite parts of these things, just looking at that thing. Something I didn't notice until just now is that there's this extra notch on the top Cartridge Type I slot. The other ones don't have that, but it's not necessary. There's nothing about the Type I cartridges that necessitate that, so maybe that was like a design thing. They thought they were going to need that, I'm not sure. But as you can see, here's Type I and a Type III, and they're the exact same physical size. It looks like they're using the same edge connector there, which is obviously, well, I shouldn't say it's obvious. It looks proprietary to me. I've never seen that before outside of these things. Maybe it's a standard, I'm not sure. One last thing I'll note before we slide it in is, of course, they're both Cartridge Type 1s. They go in the top slot, but this one is 6100 is the model number, I suppose, for feature package 1. And feature package 2 is 6104. And on the front, the left one just says feature package 1. And I apparently have V1 of feature package 2. And I'm just going to go out there and say it. I think that label does not look in line with the design language. I think that one is better. That's enough of that. Let's get feature package 2 in. I need to go read the documentation to figure out how to change ringtones. I don't know if you could tell I was avoiding that by looking at the cartridges in depth. Good news, I found the AT&T Merlin Plus Communications System Users Card all the way back from 1986. This isn't a Merlin Plus, this is a Merlin Classic, but the instructions ended up being the same, and those instructions are only going to make sense if we take a quick look at this guy for a second. On the side of every Merlin phone, there is a toggle switch labeled T, a middle position, and P. That stands for Test and Program. Not Tone and Pulse. That setting is on the control module itself right here. So if we flip the switch up to T, it goes into party mode. Constantly makes noise and flashes every single light on the device. And that's actually kind of useful because it tells you if your lights are working and the buttons are okay, well, theoretically, at least the indicators, and if your speaker works. By way of example, for that test mode, I was testing this one. I was going to send it off to a buddy. I have recently become the owner of a lot of Merlin telephones. Just getting this plugged in, and I think you'll agree half the fun is being able to hear the half the fun is being able to hear the ringtones. And so you put this into test mode, this one's not making any noise. All the indicators work, but nothing as far as sound goes. And I'm glad I noticed that because it actually makes calls perfectly. So I've done plenty of calls that this handset works, the unit works perfectly, except no ringtone. And I'm sorry. I would be devastated if, like, the one Merlin I got couldn't actually produce that ringtone. So we'll use this as an excuse to open this bad boy up. It's pretty straightforward. This is a little label where you'd write, like, the phone number of this phone or what it's for. This used to be station 26, apparently. So, yeah. Get this, come out, plastic thing off. And this comes off, and back in the day, it used to be area code 512 station 12, and it turned into station 26 apparently. There's one screw in here, so we'll get that out. And they are captive, meaning You unscrew them. Oh, and they're flathead, of course, which is a nightmare. You get them all the way unscrewed, and they're captive, so they don't actually come out. It's just unscrewed. And then you flip to the back, and it's pretty straightforward. We've got a screw here. I'll get those out. I think I've got this last one all the way out, and this is a critical part of the equation. So let's get this little sheet off. Don't take the cover off this way, because all of these buttons will fall out. Ask me how I know. Flip it over and take it off like that. Because then you can release the whole thing. That's the whole unit. All of the keys are still in there. So we've got these membranes, and those keys all come out, obviously. It's actually really well built. Pretty simple. And you saw it took, moments to take it apart. But yeah, we're going to leave that alone. And there's the front of the board. We've got some sort of special AT&T chip. It's labeled 790E111 or maybe 3Is 86. So this unit's probably from 86. Here's where all those membranes are touching the actual keys. Here's all our light indicators. And oh, we got a big chip here. What is this thing? It's a Western Electric something. 327BR, whatever. I don't know. Then we've got what looks like maybe a bodge wire. Or maybe that's on purpose. I'm not sure. Let's look at the back. Not too much going on back here either. They were pretty sloppy with the flux right from the factory. I don't know what that's about. So yeah, I'm assuming just this speaker has gone bad. Obviously the two wires right in there. If I had the right equipment, maybe I can do this with a multimeter. I don't know. Let me know. Measure something with a multimeter to see if the signal is actually going to the speaker. My guess is that it is, and that I just need to replace this guy, which I suspect is doable. I'll have to look around online. But yeah, that's what they look like inside. Really easy to get into. Now if we pull it down into program mode, it constantly rings the current ringtone. And I always thought this was kind of interesting. Now I see why. When you've got Feature Package 2, if you press the speaker button, you can cycle through your ringtones. That's the second one. And now we're back to the original. This one sounds almost very familiar. I think the 24 one was technically a Cisco chime. Don't quote me on that. Either way, it was obviously inspired by this. So our Feature Package 2 did give us ringtones to choose from. AT&T called it personalized ringing. And you get 8 total. Well, let's look at Cartridge Type II Music on Hold. Now, I've been picking up several of these cartridges on eBay over the past few months throughout this year, but a viewer named Brenton sent me a huge pile, including the elusive Music on Hold cartridge. And I mean a huge pile. Mostly the Feature Package 2 variants is what we've got in here. But one thing of note is some of them look a little different on the back. Bet you thought we were done looking at these. This is that Feature Package 1 cartridge we were looking at earlier that has that weird grit paper on the side to make it fit better. This is another one from the lot Brenton sent me, and it's been chewed up by a cat or something. But if we flip them around, this one has like the AT&T Western Electric and all the information printed on it in this white font, and the other one was embossed in. And I'm guessing the older ones look like this because it's a few ounces heavier than this one, so they might have had some iterations. I guess to be precise, the printed ones with the white font are actually on a sticker that they've slapped on this thing versus the embossing. So yeah, I'm guessing that's cheaper, but who knows? Just thought you should know that. So a massive thanks to Brenton for sending those in. I'll get them cleaned up, put to good use, and into good homes eventually. But let's take a look at the Music on Hold Cartridge Type II. On the back, it's got that white printing I was showing you. I don't know what this would be for. Maybe for the guy running this thing to know which site it should go to or something. I'm not sure. The same sort of quality control, I'm guessing, labels on the side there. Then on the front, we've got M1 and M2. I'm guessing I should look that up. It's got to be left and right audio input, right? And some bolts to tie your wires down, and you could presumably guide them over here. There's a little clip you can use, and then a turn screw in there to control the volume of the music on hold. So I think when you put someone on hold, anything playing in here is going to play into the line that happens to be on hold. So a few things to do. This thing, something's in there. Hopefully a piece of plastic and not like a resistor or something. We'll find out. I don't think there's going to be a lot of indication that this thing is doing anything when it's in here other than catastrophic failure, like the thing doesn't power on. So I need to go scrounge up a music source. And if I get that far, we need to learn how to put someone on hold. I think all we've done is transfer. There are hold buttons on these things. Should be pretty straightforward. That part anyway. Let me find something to plug into this. Check it out. We're going to use this MacBook Air that my wife and I bought a million years ago, and I still have for some reason, as our audio source. And I plugged it in, and I apparently installed Ubuntu on it. I have pretty much no recollection of doing that. Oh, I don't even know what my password would be. I can't, how many years ago would this have been? Come on, baby, you can do it. Well, not that long ago. This distro is only like 5 years old, right? Interesting. It is struggling. Here's what YouTube looks like running on a 12-plus-year-old MacBook Air with Ubuntu whatever. Kind of doesn't work. Finally loaded. It can play YouTube videos, which means it can play music. The audio is working. We need to figure that part out. Kicked my last brain cell into high gear, and I'm thinking M1 and M2, well, I know those stand for music terminal 1 and 2, and it's almost certainly going to be mono. Stereo would require 4 wires, well, 2 and a ground, 3 wires. Anyway, my brain cell just gave out. I think it's only going to be mono, so I'm going to plug this in here. This little guy's going to go into the MacBook. Plug this guy in here, and we're going to sacrifice this cable a little bit and do some modifications. It's absolute torture to deal with these cheap RCA cables if you're splicing them and stuff. There's just so little cable and it's so cheap. I kind of got lucky there. Okay, so there are our 2 cables. Ground that will get into one of those terminals, and then I gotta strip this one hopefully correctly. Come on. That wasn't too bad. Nice. Guess when you're not just using like a pocket knife and you actually have wire strippers, not so bad. Had to pull a bunch of the cables from the previous installation out of the screws to get mine to sit right. I mean, it's never going to be the best sounding thing in the world, but I think we'll get it. Beautiful. It's like AT&T sent out a technician right to my house. So the first thing we're going to do, power this thing off, of course. And we're going to slot this into cartridge. Actually, one of these receivers is kind of gummed up here. Some plastic broke off. I think that's going to be okay. Let's get this in here. I've not opened it. Doesn't look easy to open without breaking a bunch of plastic clips. So we're just going to hope that rattling plastic isn't a big deal and you can guide your cable right into your telco lines. Don't know what that's about. And we're going to power her back on. Hopefully we get our green power light. We do. I accidentally turned the MacBook off too. This all appears to be working as expected. I've got dial tone, I can make calls and everything. So let me feed an audio source in and we'll mess around. I've got the music on hold screw in there set to what feels like roughly half volume. I believe you can turn it all the way off if you want as well. And then placing a call on hold is pretty much as easy as you would expect it to be. We'll call into the Merlins with the Cisco. We'll pick up, press hold, go like that. It can even hold a call that doesn't exist. That's interesting. Drop. I don't know. Anyway, it's that easy. You pick up the call, press hold, put this back down, and we should have some music on the other phone. Our trusty MacBook Air is our audio source into the Type 2 cartridge. Get ready for this. This is going to be the best thing you see and hear this week. Dial tone, call the Merlins. Pick up the call, press hold. Oh yeah. The cartridge is working perfectly. It was too easy. I didn't have to repair anything. Wonder if we can get some better music on this thing. Oh yeah. Just up-leveled the Homelab. It sounds surprisingly good when you have this up to your ear. It was hard to capture over the microphone, especially the Cisco on-hold music. So I realized I could probably put this on speakerphone. Well, let's try that. All right, he's on hold. And let's play some music. And then we go speaker. This is ridiculously cool. I'm so glad to have this Type 2 music on hold cartridge, and I'm just blown away that it works. It works really well. There's also at least one other variant of the music on hold Type 2 cartridge, and it's a paging music on hold cartridge. So the regular music on hold stuff we just saw, plus you can hook up a paging terminal, and that basically lets you make announcements to like a loudspeaker via those connections there, which could be pretty fun. And there's nothing stopping you if you have an analog phone line or a VoIP line from using one of these things like in your house. Like someone could call you and you'll be like, I'll be right back. And then you can hit them with Mambo number 5. Just saying, it's an option for us out there. The Brave MacBook did well. How's the battery doing? Whoop. Whoop. It's charging. This thing, as I recall, when I was using it 5 years ago, something funny going on with the power. It would kind of zap you occasionally. So no one said it'd be easy. This one's like woefully underpowered by today's modern web standards, but I remember it being a pretty good unit back in the day, definitely for like surfing the web and stuff. And it was a really good era of Mac hardware, in my opinion. It's almost kind of a shame to see Ubuntu running on it, but really good keyboard. Trackpad's really nice. Of course, you got the Apple logo, and they were thin. That was a big deal back then. Yeah, it's a shame it's struggling so much to surf the web these days. Ooh, and the little power adapter is like on fire, charging that dead battery. Yikes, I can't stop talking. Remember these? Does Apple still do this? That was a nice touch when you were like traveling or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, it's funny that they, what was this called, MagSafe or something? They took away these excellent power adapters that are magnetic. If you have a Mac, this won't be special at all, but kind of snaps in there. You can do it without actually knowing where you're going. Anyway, they brought them back, which is great. Did they take them fully away? I know I definitely had a MacBook Pro that didn't have that. Okay, Merlins. Our journey is not done. To max out this Model 410, we need a Cartridge Type 3, and the one I've got is the Extra Alert and 2 Power Failure line card. I'll warn you right now, it's not going to be nearly as exciting as music on hold, but it's still pretty cool. So the story with the Cartridge Type 3, this is an Extra Alert and 2 Power Failure lines. The Extra Alert could be hooked up to like a bell or a loudspeaker, so when the phone rings, this thing will fire that thing off. As you'll see, it's a little more interesting than what I can do today, but I'm not set up, I don't have a loud bell or alert speaker, unfortunately, so we'll have to save that for a future Merlin video. But that's what that would be for. So you'd be in like a loud area where you need someone to know that the phone's ringing. You could hook up a loud device to this thing. But the power failure lines are a little easier to understand. So on all the Merlin control units, you'll have at least one telephone line coming in from the telco provider. So this is like when I'm calling in from the outside world on the Cisco, I'm ringing this line, and this thing requires power for the Merlin terminals, the voice terminals. So when the power goes out, none of your phones are going to work. And what you can do is hook one of these up. So with this slotted in, when the power goes out, if someone calls line A, it's going to transfer, well, there's probably like a physical interconnect on the back plane that just connects line A up right with this guy. This thing is very light compared to the other cartridges. I don't think there's a lot of smarts going on in here. I think it's literally physically connecting this to this. And then you can plug in an old school style phone, not an AT&T voice terminal, and it should ring this phone. And so when the unit's powered on and this is in there, I do not expect this to ring. And then what we're going to do is cut power to this and make another call in. And we should see this ring. But of course, we got to look at the cartridges really quick. This is the one I bought on eBay a while ago. The lot from Brenton was mostly feature packages except for the music on hold and another Type 3. And it's in really good shape. It's got this little protection plug there for the extra alert line. And on the back, they're pretty much identical. Looking at this, I suppose these bars I was confused about, that's where you'd put like an asset tag or something. These two came from totally different places, and they've got very similar looking barcodes. I don't know if AT&T did that sometime. And then mine has an Adcom Technologies void if tampered barcode. I'm guessing inventory tracking for these things. I don't know. Let me know if you messed around with these back in the day. And then the only other thing of note is we don't see the AT&T logo screen printed on the edge connector there. So here's a feature package 1 card to refresh your memory. Every cartridge I've seen, except for Type 3, has the AT&T logo right there. Not the case with both of the Type 3s I've got. So now it's documented for posterity. The unit is off. We're going to slide the Type 3 cartridge in there. I've got some cable management issues developing. So that's in, and it really strikes me that you could just get a splitter and plug this, split this off into a phone in here, and you wouldn't need to pay AT&T whatever the hell they were charging for this, but government contracts and all that. So let's get this normal telephone plugged into power failure line A, and I'm realizing the feature of this card is that I don't think it's going to ring this phone when the power is on, only when the power is off. But I mean, for the cost of this card, you could just turn your ringer off, and then when the power goes out, you would know that, oh, I got to go turn the ringer on. Anyway, let's make a call here. I don't think this is going to ring. It's not. That's good. But now, if we turn the Merlin off, the voice terminal's dead. And if we call, we should be able to talk to this guy. Yep. So that's the power failure line feature of Cartridge Type 3. Figured I'd be a little more precise. So I think what actually is happening in here is when there's power to the unit, some electronics probably in this card are actually keeping the lines physically disconnected with some relays or something, and then when the power goes out, they're joined back up and the phone will start ringing. Seems like that's what's going on anyway. But you might be wondering, especially if you're a relatively new viewer, how am I even doing all this? I've got this POTS line giving us the dial tone coming out of that mystery jack over there. I've got this Cisco phone, which is obviously an IP phone with an Ethernet cable, and it doesn't have a power adapter. It's got inline power coming over this cable for it. So let me give you a quick rundown of my setup. In a room about 15 feet away, I've got this, what I'm calling the retro rack. And the Cisco 2800 series router is the main guy when it comes to the phones. So the IP phone stuff is easy enough to figure out. It's hosting some Cisco software that is made to let you run IP phones. It is connected to this main aggregation switch. I think it's this one. Anyway, to get into the backbone of the network. And then this guy down in here is a Catalyst 3500 Series XL, and it delivers inline power. Inline power was a precursor to standardized power over Ethernet. So any IP phone you see me deal with in the videos ultimately are coming back to this guy, and this guy gives them power, and it in turn is of course connected up to the 2800 series hosting the IP phone software. Now on the back of this guy, I've got something called an FXS card, and that analog phone line you see coming in there is the exact same one that's going into the Merlins. And so I can configure this to provide an analog phone line, and I can call via analog phones, basically the Merlin setup in this video, and they can talk to the IP phones and vice versa. I will briefly show you that configuration. In fact, we've got the obligatory data center IP phone over there. We could call the Merlins from that if we wanted to. I do that sometimes, it's kind of fun. I have full serial console access, terminal access to all this gear via this Cisco 2500 series router. It's acting as what's called a terminal server. It's got a bunch of cables coming off the back. In fact, this is one of them right here. This is the serial console for this. It's on the front for some reason. It goes into here. Well, let's go talk to this guy via him. So back over in the workshop on my main machine, we can telnet into that terminal server I was talking about. He's at 10.002, and I wrote this little menu system for myself. And the 2800 that's doing all the phone stuff is called Phone Router 1, PHN Router 1, and I spelled it wrong in my little menu system, apparently, so I gotta fix that. But this nice little thing lets me get into that guy. And now I'm at Phone Router 1. That's how it was supposed to be spelled in the menu. And this isn't going to be a Cisco tutorial necessarily, but I'll show you the relevant bits. So let's do show run. This is going to show the configuration that is on this thing. And we'll just get down to the relevant parts here. This is a bunch of stuff you need for the IP phones. And you can see I've got voice port 000, and I've labeled it Merlin. And that is the FXS port that my Merlin is plugged into at the moment. And then we've got some dial peers. All this is saying is that if someone dials the number 200, it needs to ring that FXS port. And if someone dials a number that starts with 10, do the IP phone stuff. So my IP phones are like 101, 102, 103. If I dial 101 from the Merlin and it's coming in over that FXS port, this dial peer is going to kick in. It's going to notice that the number started with 10, and it's going to hit this exact machine and do the IP phone to analog bridge, I guess you could call it. Figured I'd just show you that. That's how all this works. Now, to have fun with these phones, you don't need to do all that Cisco stuff with the heavy equipment or anything like I have. I just really like playing with it. You can pick up an ATA, or analog telephone adapter. This happens to be Cisco. It has seen better days. But basically, the idea is it can provide a dial tone to an analog phone. And there are tutorials online. Cathode Ray Dude has a really good one, not about this specific model, but I was able to use his tutorial for this SPA 122 and use this just fine even for some dial-up stuff I was doing. And basically what you do is you configure it so that when you call a number on this one, it rings this one, call a number on this one, and it rings this one. So you can hook the Merlin up here, you could hook another analog phone up over here, and then you'd be able to call in and hear the beautiful Merlin voice terminal ringtones. I think that's all I've finally got to say about this. I really like that it's totally maxed out, pretty kitted out Merlin Model 410 here with all 3 different cartridge types. That's going to do it for the Merlin cartridge overview bonanza. I really like this Merlin stuff. Never say never, but I'm probably never going to stop making videos about it. I really only have the classic stuff. I've got a bigger model that has some cartridges or expansion slots, and it's totally broken, so I'll do like a repair video of that again when I get my other brain cell firing. But I hope you enjoyed this. I always have a smile on my face when I bring this phone stuff out. It just kind of hooks you. So thank you so much for making it this far into the video. I hope this was informative. If you used these Merlins back in the day or got anything wrong, please comment down below. I'm not an expert. I'm kind of learning as I go, but I really enjoy it. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to get to 70,000 by the end of the year. I have bumped down my 75K goal. That doesn't seem very likely. And I've also got a Patreon where I post behind-the-scenes type videos, the occasional early release. I've been a little lacking with the behind-the-scenes videos, but I've got like 3 or 4 ideas and a couple in the hopper. Thanks once again, and I'll catch you in the next video.